Are you ready?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Parishscope. This is the arm of the newsletter, the Parishscope from St. John Sand Prairie. I'm Pastor Chris Sansom.
And I'm Casey Dreamus. I'm the creative worship director at Our Savior Lutheran.
All right. Well, I mean, you know, you and I were talking. There's not a lot of news to talk about, and here's the thing: there's a lot of things going on, but just not a lot of things that, you know. I'll be honest with you. There's not a lot of things I just care to talk about, to be honest with you. Now, of course, you and I were talking right beforehand that you know, we have, of course, the passing of James Woods, or not James Woods. I'm sorry, Rob Reiner.
Yeah.
Rob Reiner, who passed away tragically. Sounds like, at least allegedly, due to his son and something his son did. Although from everything I've heard, it's pretty much a sure thing. But you know,
right,
America, I guess. You know. Not quite guilty until he's tried by a jury.
Right.
But one of the things that really caught my attention, though, was a statement by James Woods. And did you hear this at all?
I have not heard anything about this.
Okay, so here's kind of the setup for this. Rob Reiner, by the way, loved so many of his movies. I mean, I don't know about you, but his movies are pretty much my childhood, right?
Yeah.
You know, you got The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally. You have, oh my gosh, so many movies that he was a director of. And, you know, again, a lot of them were movies I watched as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard not to love a lot of his films. But he was also very, very much a liberal in the political scheme of things.
Yes, yeah.
From what I understand, you know, almost overwhelmingly so. That being said, James Woods is like the complete opposite, you know, a very good actor, a successful actor, but he's also very conservative.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was interviewed by Fox News the other night. Now, I don't really watch Fox News. I don't watch NBC. I don't watch CNN. I don't watch any of them, really. Listen to talk radio sometimes, but you know, that's about it. But they had on this clip with James Woods, and he's talking. And one of the things that he's bringing up is that Rob Reiner really helped save his career, you know, whenever he was younger.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's all well and good. But what's really interesting is James Woods and Rob Reiner were friends. And I think, you know, listening to James Woods talk, it was actually kind of a really beautiful thing. And it's honestly, it's something we need more in this country.
Yeah.
You know, he talked about how, they disagreed politically. They were polar opposites. And yet at the same time, those two could come together and be just like, have this awesome friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I mean, you know, that's the basic gist of it. If you haven't heard it, you should go listen to it. You know, because I think honestly, it's a really great thing to see, you know, again, James Woods is an outspoken conservative guy, you know, and Rob Reiner was an outspoken liberal guy. And so the fact that those two could be friends and even that James Woods, you know, again, it just kind of goes to show you in some regards that you can have a political difference and look past that and still be friends with somebody, which I think is something that our world, for whatever reason, has forgotten over the years.
Yes. Well, I think there's a strong sense of trying to keep people separated. Is, you know, if anybody who believes that ideology, don't talk to them. They're horrible. Don't be, you know, and I mean, as far as Christians go, like, you know, we always talk, you know, it's the be in the world but not of it sort of idea of, like, you know, you don't want to partake in the things that are sinful, even though we're in the world with them. But this is, I mean, when you're talking about politics and stuff like that, it's just, I think it's a tactic to keep people mad at each other without them communicating.
Yeah.
Because if you can keep people not communicating, then they're going to stay mad, and then you kind of have control over them. I'm a big fan of the show Survivor. Have you ever seen the show Survivor ever?
I have.
There's a season. There's this guy. A lot of people, if you watched it in the early days, there's this guy named Boston Rob. That was his nickname. and he was like kind of one of the first like big celebrities of Survivor. Like everybody knew who
Okay.
he, because of the show. But he won a season where he came back and he was with a bunch of like fans, like they weren't people who had played before. And he did this thing where when they merged, like they're in separate groups and then they merge at the end.
Hmm.
Um, and he made his group, they were so like they followed him, like they thought he was the greatest leader of all time. They just anything he said they did. It was crazy. And what he did is he made them build a separate shelter away from the other team, and they had a separate fireplace, they separated their food so
Hmm.
that they didn't even talk to each other. And he did that because he's like, if I can keep them away from the other people, they won't start getting ideas, because they're not going to overthrow me, because they want to be with me. And he literally, like, he was, in his interviews he was so outspoken about it, but of course he didn't say that to them.
Well, of course
and
not.
and
Yeah.
he even did this thing where he made them, he said, we all, we need to have like a buddy system, like don't go out like looking for firewood by yourself, like with one of those other people, like just have somebody from our alliance with you at all times. And that was to make sure that no matter what, like if somebody did start talking strategy with the other side, that person would tattle on them and then they'd vote their own person out. And it was just crazy. But that
Yeah.
game is such a great example of like they're building a small, tiny little society on this abandoned place. And then when I see these politics things happen, I think, it's just like that show. It's just like that guy did. He tells people, don't go over there, don't talk to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfriend. Hey, if you have any people who are liberal, unfriend them on Facebook, because you don't need that in your life. And the same thing the other way. It's like,
Well,
so,
absolutely.
and
And
it's
again,
just,
so many things, like especially when you think of like Facebook and all these things, they all have an algorithm, and it becomes this gigantic echo chamber,
yep.
and it just becomes like, oh, you only want to be around people that think and act like you.
Yeah, yeah, and you do. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of in your head, you really do.
Yeah.
Uh, but and then you also kind of only see the extreme sides of the other side that you don't agree with. You don't
Yeah.
see the level-headed sides. you know, um, and so it is really cool to see like that's, or to hear that statement, because it should be more normal, like you said. We should be friends with people who don't agree with us on everything.
Yeah, I agree. And again, it's just and it's also one of those things too. I think, in terms of, of course this is the way my brain goes, but like I think in terms of evangelism, and I've brought this up before, but like, whenever we think of evangelizing, like if you think that you're going to go out and reach the world, for Jesus, if you're going to proclaim that gospel message and you're not going to run into people that disagree with you, um, yeah, you're just wrong.
Yeah.
And the thing is you're going to have to hold conversations with those people. Some of them are going to be vehemently against you, and you don't know what the Holy Spirit is doing. You don't know what God is doing to them in their lives. And it's one of those things where you can proclaim the gospel, and you might not ever see anything from that, but it's only later down the road that the message really gets through. But that doesn't mean that your role in that isn't important. It is important. Um, God has called to work through you, and even if it's a small role that you never see the end of, and it's that regard that like you're gonna have to talk to people and sometimes you're gonna disagree with those people vehemently, and it's okay. They're still humans. We can still
Yeah.
talk to them.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, I've found that out, in the last like year. It's just if you stand up for something you truly believe in, it's, especially if it gains some kind of publicity, or it seems to, like, there's going to be people who uh don't like what you're saying. No matter what, even if you're like, man, I feel like I'm saying all nice things, there'll be somebody with an opinion, you know.
Right.
Uh, it's funny. I just saw a video of Chris Hemsworth, who played Thor.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
big movie star. Well, he's doing this show where he's kind of like trying to. I think it's called like Limitless or something like that. I haven't watched it, but I've seen clips, because he in the show, and I think he's doing a bunch of things. But one of the things he was doing is he was trying to learn how to play drums, and he's never drummed before. So he's trying to learn how to play drums. And of course, he's like friends with some of these like rock stars and stuff. So he sits in with like Ed Sheeran, or whatever, and
Okay.
tries to get good enough where he can at least play through one song with them. And
Yeah.
then there was a video of him playing with a band, and the comments were just like, they were just so mean. They were just, all of them were like, why don't you go back to blah, blah, acting, like they were good. And it was so obvious that he's not like a drummer. He's trying to learn. Like, this was just for this like show.
Yeah.
He and they were just, man, people wanted to just tear him apart and go, oh yeah, like, and I think it's just them taking out like either their jealousy on him. Like, a lot of them talked about his looks and like, oh, well, maybe you look good, but you're not as talented as you think you are. And it's like, the guys, it's just like for fun. It's like, can you calm
Yeah.
down? And every
It-
once in a while I'd scroll down, there'd be a drummer who'd be like, guys, this is ridiculous. Like, and it's like, they would always say like, I'm a drummer, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm a drummer too, and this is ridiculous. Why are people being so mean? It's like, it's just for the show. He's just trying something. The whole point is he's trying to do something new, but everybody has an opinion about it.
yeah.
Everybody wants to, or just take out their anger on somebody because they're in the public eye. So same thing with
Yeah.
proclaiming your faith. I mean, people definitely will have an opinion. So
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, so anyway, I mean, again, like yeah, we could talk for hours on just that topic alone, but
yeah,
I think we have in the past. So we're gonna move on. We actually, so last time I gave a phone number out
yeah.
for those people that would like to call the show and basically ask a question. Now, I'll give the phone number again out at the end, but for right now, we did have somebody who asked a question. I'm going to play it and I'm going to see if it actually works. All right. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
How does one reconcile perpetual virginity of Mary in light of Matthew chapter 1, verse 25?
Okay. Did you get all that?
You might have to either replay it or explain, because I heard like bits and pieces. I heard Virgin Mary, the perpetual Virgin Mary. Did they say that?
The perpetual virginity. All right, I'm going to play it again. Ready?
Yeah.
How does one reconcile perpetual virginity of Mary in light of Matthew chapter 1, verse 25?
Was that better?
Yeah. I think you probably know what he's talking about better than I do, though. Because I'm a little like, we talked about this last week, or the last episode.
Yep.
About the perpetual, as in Mary was always a virgin, with like till she passed.
Yeah.
And so, and that's honestly kind of for me, that's kind of a new that's kind of a new concept to me. Like, I didn't even really understand that was like even a discussion.
Yeah.
So, and then he's talking about specific scripture. So
Yeah.
I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know it. So
No, it's okay. I figured you didn't. I looked it up. So all right. So basically Joseph is trying to determine what he should do. He has a dream, and basically he's spoken to. And then after that, when it starts in verse 24, when Joseph woke from sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took his wife, and then here's verse 25. But knew her not until she had given birth to a son, and he called his name Jesus.
knew her not.
Yeah, he knew her not, and that's Bible speak for basically saying that they did not consummate the relations.
Right.
But it says until, and the conjunction there, until, is usually what's being discussed.
Right.
And so that's kind of the question. Now, this is one of those things where, again, I'm gonna reiterate this. As for me, I have a tendency to fall on the side that would say that Mary was not a perpetual virgin the rest of her life.
Right.
I tend to fall on that side, but at the same time, realize like there are arguments that go the other way, and they do have some credence. And we talked a lot about this last week. I mean, we talked for like 40 minutes on it last week.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna. If you want to know more, go back and listen to last, not last week's, but 2 weeks ago that episode. But this particular argument, going back to chapter 1, verse 25, referencing the until, is one that has come up in the past. In fact, it came up so far in the past that Jerome himself, Saint Jerome, addressed this in the 4th century. So Saint Jerome Vulgate, he's the one who translated the Bible from the Greek and the Hebrew into the Latin.
Okay.
So there you go. He kind of had a cave that he was in Bethlehem. And one of the things that he talked about how this particular phrase simply means that there was a very specified amount of time, but not necessarily what happens after that amount of time. So, for instance, and I can't remember if this is exactly the one he argued, but you could say something like, we could say something like, he didn't eat any more potato chips until he died. It doesn't mean that after he died, he started eating potato chips.
Right.
It just means that the rest of his natural life, that span of his life, he consistently did not eat potato chips.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see this, like there's a couple different cases in Holy Scripture. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have them quite looked up in front of me, but even in Scripture, there's talking about this where, we talk about the reign of Christ, that he will reign on earth until he returns. That doesn't mean that Christ all of a sudden will cease to reign. So that's kind of the counterpoint. Okay. Now again, kind of do with that as you will. Again, I'm not going to tell you have to believe one way or the other. I'm just trying to tell you that there's arguments that go in both directions. And that's kind of the way that a lot of people on the side of perpetual virginity of Mary, that is typically how they respond.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I get what you mean, because it's kind of, I guess, sort of the interpretation of the person who can kind of assume it means one way or the other.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, again, take that for what it is. That is the way that a lot of people will deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how you can believe in the perpetual virginity of Mary in light of Matthew chapter 1, verse 25.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that was the only question we got this week.
All right.
Oh yeah, I was going to give that phone number again. I'll give that phone number again later. I don't have it up on my phone. I need to pull it up on my phone.
Yeah.
Because I know it's I know I made it like unique.
Yeah, isn't it like Parishscope or something like that?
Yeah, it's like Parish 05 something.
Yeah.
This is silly. Why don't I have it pulled up? Where's that? Settings. Oh yeah, okay, here it is. 727-474-0542. That number again, 727-474-0542. And you should be able to call and just leave a message. And again, you'll notice that it's the Parishscope. I say it in the little, what is it? The voicemail greeting.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah,
cool.
ask away, and we'll address it. And again, if you do not want to be, because I noticed I played that message here. if you don't want that, if you're like, I don't really want my voice on your little podcast, Pastor, just tell me that in the message. Just tell me that you don't want it played, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll ask the question for you. It's no biggie. So, all right. But I hear you have a question for me.
I do. So I'm working my way through Leviticus right now.
Oh boy.
Yeah, which I'll be honest. I've had a couple weeks where I've been super busy, and I feel bad because I haven't really been getting. I kind of slacked on it, so I'm really trying okay, get myself back into it. And to be honest, I was kind of like, okay, Leviticus is a little like you've even said it's a little dry, or I don't know if that's the word you would use, but it's a little slower. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll listen to some Matthew or something and try to get. And then I just got all mixed around. So I'm like, okay, no, I'm just going back to Leviticus. I'm going to muscle through it. But I'm in the portion right now where they're talking about all the different, basically signs or things that declare whether they're unclean. And for instance, they're talking a lot about leprosy right now.
Yeah.
And one thing, I've always kind of said the Bible is sort of like a self-help book in a way that it's like God is explaining to you how to live your life. And there's certain reasons for that. He's not just telling you to live this way because that's the way he wants it, but it also is because it's actually the best life for you, and I think when I'm reading this, though, I'm getting more of this sense of back in the day, was this seemed way more like a medical, they're teaching you how to be healthy or what to look out for and what not to. And I just wonder what exactly how do you take this portion of it where they're talking about how to spot leprosy and all these different things and what is unclean and what is healed, what's okay, because there's some of it where it's well, if they have this and there's there's hair growing out of it, then they are clean or they're okay and stuff like that. So I just wondered if you have any thoughts on that or what you kind of take out of it when you read that whole thing.
Well, so you're getting into Leviticus, and Leviticus is, if you want to do Leviticus right, you really have to break it down to certain levels. So, for instance, when we look at the law, and I specifically am talking about the law of God. When you're looking at the law, you have to realize that there's multiple levels of law. For instance, there is ceremonial law. This is how you act in ceremony. This is what you do in ceremony. There's moral law, and there's temple law and so on and so forth. And so one of the things that you have to understand is that some of the things that you are reading are going to fit into one category or the other. And one of the things that you have to work through or, study is this a moral law or is this a ceremonial law?
Okay.
Because there is a difference. Even from our standpoint, moral laws we tend to keep. Right? We're going to keep moral laws. And those are ways in which, like you were saying, God just says, here's how I want you to live. Right? That's a moral law.
Okay.
Don't go kill people. That's a moral law.
Right. Okay.
That's not just about living in, and being able to worship the God, worship God in the temple, no, just don't murder anybody ever, period.
Right.
You should only have one God. That's a moral law, even though, that might sound ceremonial. It's not. But now when you start getting into things like clean and unclean, a lot of that has to do with who's able to approach the temple.
Okay.
And who's able to, have sacrifices. Well, that breaks into ceremonial law.
Okay.
And so whenever we start getting into ceremonial law, now you're learning about the temple life. And to be honest, and this is what I always say, it's when you start venturing into ceremonial law, one of the things that you're beginning to understand, and hopefully you can begin to understand it as well, is just how precise God is.
Uh-huh.
I think this is one of those things where personally, like, as I've gone through the Bible over the years, that I think catches a lot of people off guard. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think everybody looks at Christianity and God as like it's just this big tent and everybody's invited.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then all of a sudden you start reading Leviticus and you're like, wait, just a second. He's actually really specific.
Yeah, there's a lot of specifics.
He's like insanely specific. You're like, oh my gosh.
It's like
And I
chapters
think
and
that's part of
chapters
the
of
point. Like you
specifics.
begin to realize, like, no, God's actually God, and He's very specific. And so He is defining what is clean versus what is not clean. And by the way, He's not talking about like dirt or removal of dirt on the body. He is talking about kind of a ceremonial clean or unclean. Can you approach the temple? Can you sacrifice to the Lord, or can you not?
Ah, okay.
And so you have cases of leprosy. Well, they are unclean.
Right.
Now we could argue that there's germs and really they were probably contagious and everything, and so it's probably good for society for them to kind of stand off to the side anyway, and that's probably all true,
Yeah.
and maybe that's another layer to this, but the reality is that a leper was considered ceremonially unclean. They could not go to the temple.
Ah, okay. Interesting. So that what I'm reading into, this is all about the ceremony. It's not like a
well, again, not all of it.
Not a moral law. Okay.
This is where you got to kind of say, okay, am I reading about worship life in the temple or in the tabernacle, or am I reading about moral, like how am I to live my life?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Or am I reading about what it means to be in the priestly class and how I'm supposed to fulfill certain things?
Okay, gotcha. So that's okay. That's interesting. Yeah, because I haven't really made the difference, or the difference between all those while I'm listening to it. It's just, to me, it's like, man, there's a lot of stuff in here.
Yeah. And again, that's why I started, like, and again, I didn't make it very far, and I still need to go back. I still have it as my goal to actually do a walkthrough of Leviticus, going at least like 4 or 5 verses at a go. And I always wanted to make videos for that, and I made like 3 or 4 of them last year, and I think I even talked about it and everything else. And then life caught up to me.
Yeah,
life caught up to me.
Yeah, it's
anyway. But that being said, I still say that eventually I'll go back and actually complete that task, to walk through Leviticus. And part of the reason for that is because the book itself is actually not that boring once you start digging in and beginning to understand it.
Okay.
It just takes a lot of work.
Okay. Is there anything you could give me as far as like, is there anything specifically I should know besides that it's just these are laws? Or I mean, or am I off? Am I losing it?
No, you're not losing it. I mean, again, I've already kind of given you the heads up. I mean, obviously, God is talking to His people, and you got to remember that. And He's talking to His people in the Old Testament, and He is giving them, a lot of instruction. A lot of it is like how to deal with sin.
Well, that's
how do you deal
another
with sin in the community? How do you deal with your own sin? And this is where you do get the whole sacrificial system and how it's set up, and the whole. So, and you got to remember, like there's all these paradigms. There's grades of holiness that He's going to set up, that He's already set it up. In terms of where you are position wise and how far you can go or can't go, and then also the idea that the closer you get, kind of to the inner sanctum, to the Holy of Holies, that's the more holy ground. Whereas the further away, the less holy. And so you have aspects of, things like, and you see, shadows of it later, or maybe reverbs of it later, whenever people talk about, like, well, even Jesus, Jesus talks about how, like, you get tossed out into the wilderness where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. Well, that's because the wilderness is, if the temple and the tabernacle are ordered and everything is ordered and everything has order, then the wilderness is chaos.
Right.
And so that's outside the temple. That's outside the tabernacle. That's away. And the further away you get, the worse it gets. So again, realize, like, that's what Jesus uses to describe hell, to be
Okay.
far away from that order.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to keep going through it and see. And it's definitely, it's a lot of information.
Yeah.
That I can't
it is.
quite.
And again, it's one of those things where, like, for what you are doing, just trying to go through and read the Bible because you've never, like, read it through all the way through before.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would say just keep reading. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Even if you don't understand it now, just keep going. If at a later time you say, "Hey, I want to sit back down with with Leviticus and really study it and really get to know it," that's going to be a time to really sit down and parse it out. Because what's going to happen if you try to sit down and parse it out now, you're going to get lost in all the details. There's just a lot to go through. There's just so much to go through.
Yeah, honestly,
so you'll get kind of lost in the details. So just work your way through it. Keep going. See the light at the end of the tunnel, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then later, if you want to sit down, and honestly, like, even when we think about, like, this podcast and the Periscope, like, even if later you say, "Hey, I want to kind of bring this up and let's walk through it a little bit," like, we can probably do that, honestly. So
yeah,
that would give me more time, because, like, even right now, like, you're talking, like, okay, there's rules of leprosy. I remember, lepers were considered unclean, so I put it in the realm of, like, temple and ceremonial law. But that being said, I'm going blank here. Like I'm not
right. Yeah.
Reading Leviticus right now and researching it. So, I mean, it's like one of those things where, like, even me, I probably need to sit down and do a little bit more study.
Yeah. It's definitely a challenging one, I think, but like I said, I just feel like I want to I want to go from front to back, So I was kind of toying around with maybe jumping to another book, but then I'm like, no, let me just get through. Even like you said, even if I don't understand it fully, I feel like I'm still kind of absorbing part of it, like in understanding and seeing, like, the fact that God is very specific about what he wants, and which does kind of help put some things into perspective, even if I don't quite understand all the rules that he set in place. But I do understand that, when people try to act like, oh, God doesn't care about any of that, just, as long as you're coming to church, it's like, well, he does have a lot. Actually, he is pretty specific about things, even if we're not talking exactly about those two things right now. It's obvious from reading, or for me listening to the book, that it's a little bit different than I guess I interpreted in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, again, I mean, like, I think for a lot of us, we have this, we come out with this idea that, the God is, like I said, kind of like this big umbrella, just everybody to show up and it's okay. And it's like, let me put it to you another way. Actually, I'll put it to you in a more theologically sound way. No.
Ooh, okay.
I remember my one professor, and I used to love this because I think sometimes language like this is lost. And because of that, I think sometimes, even as a pastor, I'm afraid to talk like this, even though it's very true. And it's actually good to talk of. And it's good, especially in light of something like this. My one professor used to say, the old saying is that, love the sinner, hate the sin.
Right. Yes.
And that's kind of the old expression. And my professor used to say, no, like God destroys the sinner and the sin, and then he creates a new.
Right.
And so it's like, when you think about, like, baptism and the fact that you're being tied to you're being drowned with Jesus. And it's like, you put it in that kind of radical language, like, no, God is gonna destroy you and make something brand new. He's not going to leave you just tainted with sin and just, like, no, he's, and honestly, even Luther talked like this, like, when Luther was in some of his arguments, some people would say, God's grace is kind of like snow, right? Like, even if, let's say a dog, basically does his business outside, all God sees is the snow on top, and he can't see the sin and all this kind of stuff. And it sounds really pretty. And then Luther would strike back and go, "No, it's still crap." No,
Yeah.
God's not just gonna accept crap. He's just not.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
he's gonna
Yeah,
wipe it out. He's gonna obliterate it. He's gonna destroy the crap and bring back something that's new and beautiful and great.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, like you got to think about that in terms of your relationship to God, but also even your relationship, in terms of the church. Like if you come as this crazy avid sinner, that's still not okay.
Yeah.
And God's going to destroy the sinner and the sin and rebuild you.
Right.
So I mean, again, it's just one of those things where you think about that, and it's like, yeah, some of these things are insanely specific, but what God is doing is absolutely, mind-boggling.
Right. It is, yeah. I don't know. I don't have anything else I can think of right now.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to. All right. Well, we're just rushing along. For the last several weeks, we've had like really long episodes.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, maybe people need a
maybe
light
kind of have
one.
a little bit of a speedier one. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I guess. Are we ready for the next segment?
I think we're ready, yeah.
Okay, well, here we go.
Welcome now to Saints in the Shadows. Hear the stories of the saints, learn about things you never knew. See if you can figure out who the saint is before the end.
All right. I call this one the Great Toma. He was a man that both failed to see and saw too far, or so it seemed. The Great Toma, I'll call him. He was a traveler of sorts. He went to Syria, to Persia, and beyond, even all the way to India. It is there, in this long-forgotten world, that the story says he ran into, of all things, a king, King Gundafar. And I don't know if I'm actually pronouncing his name right. The Gundafar is spelled Gundapar. Gundafar. I think I'm whatever. Now, Toma was a lot of things. And in his past, he was a carpenter. Maybe even a good one. The king found this out and he hired him. He hired him to build a palace. So this little man, this Toma, this person who sees, set to building a palace. The money was given. The workers were hired. And Toma set about, giving money to the poor. As you might imagine, the king wasn't really all that pleased about this. In fact, the king was infuriated. How dare this guy take all of his money? How dare he just give money to the poor? How dare he not build the very palace that he, the king, so desperately wanted? And so, Gundafar decided to have him jailed, to have him tortured, and ultimately to have him killed. I can just imagine Toma just waiting there. I feel like for most of us, we would think about it. We'd get in our own heads and we'd fear the outcome, fear what is going to happen. Will we live or will we be dead? Will we be killed? And yet I get the sneaking suspicion that when it came to the Great Toma, that is not how it went. I think he waited there peacefully, knowing that he did the right thing. Now, as events began to unfold, the brother of Gundafar, the king, got sick. In fact, he actually died. Well, maybe. Just maybe it's one of the first, close to the first anyway, recorded near-death experiences. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. Or maybe not. But when he was finally breathing again, when he was finally awake, he began to talk about the great palace that the king had. Just not a palace of brick and mortar, not a palace of wood and nails, but instead a palace built on mercy, the mercy that he had shown to all the people that received the money from the great Toma. The great Toma that they had received in the name of the king. And so in the end, the king did not kill the great Toma. He did not mistreat him, at least not anymore. For the king really did have a palace, just not the one that could be seen with human eyes. This, in the end, is a lot for the great Toma. He didn't always have such tenacity. However, then again, at times he really did. When the Lord talked of going to Jerusalem, it was the great Toma that leapt up and exclaimed, "Let us go with you. Let us go to die with you." And yet he is not traditionally known for any of that. No, usually when you think of the great Toma, you don't think of times when he was bold. You don't think of times when he was confident. No, you usually think of Toma because he doubted. He doubted the resurrection of the Lord. You see, he was also called Didymus in Greek, or Toma in Latin, which means twin. However, we typically call him Doubting Thomas. We call him Doubting Thomas these days, a bold disciple of the Lord that is known more for his doubts. And yet that was but one thing in a great big life. And he is usually commemorated on December 21st. Now, there's a little bit of wildness with his date. December 18th is when, according to church tradition, he got lanced, I guess, stabbed. But he didn't die until December 21st, so it's usually commemorated on December 21st. However, they moved his, relics, and the Westerners, the Catholics, moved his relics on July 3rd. And so a lot of times they'll move St. Thomas Commemoration Day to July 3rd. And in the Eastern quarters, they sometimes celebrate him on October 6th. However, the more traditional time to celebrate St. Thomas is on December 21st. Now, that'd be this Sunday. And so there you have it. The great Toma, or the twin Didymus, or Thomas.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you go. There's my saints in the shadows. Now here's the other part. Now, of course, we have to talk about food and such.
Right.
Okay. So the food. Now this is kind of interesting. There's apparently there is an old tradition. I don't know how old, but there's an old tradition that states that if a German is in the middle, like specifically this was taking place in Germany, and they would be making their, and I'm going to say this wrong, and so somebody who knows German a lot better than me can probably correct me, but is making Kletzenbrat, or as we call it in America, fruitcake. So apparently the tradition in Germany is if you're in the middle of making fruitcake on December 21st, on St. Thomas Day, and you go hug a tree, specifically like an orchard tree, a fruit tree.
Oh, wow.
You will have good fruit the rest of the year.
Oh.
Yeah.
I may have to try that out.
Yep. You got to go hug a tree. Got to be a tree
hugger.
hugger.
Yep.
Yep. That's what you got to do. So anyway, so it is actually very traditional to have fruitcake on December 21st in honor of good old St. Thomas. A lot of people will talk about him in terms of architecture because of the whole palace incident. Now, I will say out of hand that the Gundafar story that I just mentioned, while it's a great story, I couldn't find a lot of like historical evidence. It just kind of pops up in like the 8th or 9th century, that story does.
Really?
But it makes for a great story. Good old Gundafar.
Yeah.
Gundafar. But anyway, he's known in the Holy Scriptures. He's very bold. he's the one that says to Jesus, "Whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life." That's him. He wants to leap to go to Jerusalem after Lazarus dies, and he's, like, "Let's go die with you." And it's funny because, like, he's such a bold disciple, and yet after the resurrection, he's like, "I won't believe it until I see him," and that's what he's known for. Like, that's what he
Yeah.
always gets known for. The cocktail that is the choice for today, especially leaning on the architecture, is called the Builder Upper, which, I'll be honest, I wasn't sure if that was a legit drink. Turns out it is. I looked it up, and now it's not on a lot of places, but it's on a few. It's got basically 3/4 of an ounce of brandy, 1/4 ounce of sweet vermouth, 1 dash of bitters, and then basically shake well and strain into a glass. And it's a very simple drink. But yeah, apparently that is called a Builder Upper. So
Interesting.
anyway, there you go.
There you go.
There you go. I don't know. It's fun.
Are you closing it out with the
Closing it out?
Don't you have a and that's
yeah. I guess we're done. Thanks for reminding me. Look, I'm seeing how bad I am. I'm just terrible tonight. I'm terrible.
It's
Here we
been
go.
a week.
And so it ends. The light shines in the shadow. And now you know more about the story of one of the saints of history.
Very nice.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Isn't that the rub, though? You do all these things, then you just get known for one thing.
Right?
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah. And it's also one of those things where, like, one of the other things is, realize, like, in Thomas's words. So, okay, so I'll just let you in. Like, there's one church practice is whenever so after you consecrate the elements, sometimes people will genuflect and they will repeat the words of Thomas, "My Lord and my God." But realize there's a significance to those words because Thomas is the first one to truly identify Jesus as God.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like
That's
in a
interesting.
very explicit element. So, like, as bold as he is, like, from a textual standpoint, all the other disciples are, they're excited to have Jesus back and all this kind of stuff. And then, like, Thomas doubts, but then when he sees Thomas and he puts his finger, in the nail, in the holes in his hands and in the side,
Right.
He exclaims, "My Lord and my God." And it is an explicit reference of calling Jesus God, not a prophet or anything else. But it's very interesting. It's one of the, and so, I mean, like, so really with Thomas, you have a lot of this stuff going on. And so anyway, it's just very interesting that he gets such a bad rap because we call him Doubting Thomas.
Right. Yeah.
We have all this good stuff with him.
Yeah, he just had poor marketing done on him. They're just it's too good of a nickname, Doubting Thomas.
Yeah, it really is. Really is. All right, I want to do the lectionary loop, which I don't have a lot with, but here we go.
And it's time for Lectionary Loop and our look at the upcoming lectionary texts.
All right. So for us, we actually have our children's program this Sunday. So we're not actually going to be dealing with the lectionary very much. But one of the things is that we actually have quite a bit of text here, but it's definitely more leaning towards the birth of Jesus at this point. So So for instance, we have Matthew 1:18 through 25, which is a text we actually just read, which talks about how Joseph, obviously had a dream, and it talks about the birth account of Jesus, and then how Joseph basically did not know her until she gave birth. And then we also have the Isaiah passage of Isaiah 7, which highlights and talks about, it's the prophetic text that says, and the virgin will be with child.
Okay.
And so then we also have the Romans passage, but the Romans passage is just Romans 1 through 7. And I say just, like it's oh yeah, just. But anyway, and it just talks more about who Jesus is. First it talks with Paul, then it talks about how he was promised beforehand with the Holy Scriptures concerning his son, descended from David, and then it talks about how this is the Lord Jesus Christ. And so honestly, it's like Romans is kind of like putting everything together for you, but it's one of those things where it's very much pointed towards very much a Christmas element, which is interesting. In that Advent is really about the coming of the Lord Jesus, the second coming. And so the first part of the entirety of Advent is all geared towards, there's going to be a day when the Lord comes. There's going to be a day when the Lord comes as judge, and there's going to be there's going to be a day when the Lord, returns to take his people to be with him for all of eternity. It's pointing to the end of time. And so this one, it's like it slows down and it says, okay, now we're going to look towards the birth of Jesus. So that's the fourth Sunday in Advent. Now, I'd also like to and I want to put this, I'm going to put this in the podcast, because I say this all the time at church, and I've probably even said this before in the podcast. This past Sunday was called Gaudet Sunday. And Gaudet comes from the Latin word for rejoice. Okay? And it comes because of the Psalm of the day that is scheduled for that particular day is one of rejoicing. And so it is a moment of rejoice. But here's the thing, it's kind of fun. I always tell people, and I tell people this at church all the time, it's kind of like when you go to work and, you're working Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday's kind of like hump day. It's like, just get over that hill. But then you come to work on Thursday and it's like, things are a little lighter, because you're on that downhill slope, right? You're almost to Friday. You're almost to the weekend. Now you're not there yet. You're just kind of almost there. And that's kind of what that Gaudet Sunday is, which is why our paraments, at least our paraments at St. John's, I know not a lot of churches have the rose-colored paraments. St. John's does. We actually had some wonderful ladies in the church that were able to sew them for us, and so it's amazing. So we have the rose-colored paraments, but you'll also notice in your Advent candles that there's a rose-colored candle. And that's why. Now, it's usually that you take violet, which is purple mixed with a little bit of black to create violet. And what happens is that's a penitential color, because Advent is a penitential season. You're getting ready for the coming of the Lord. And so what happens is you take the penitential colors out, which is black and blue, and you're left, if you take black and blue out of violet, you're left with rose or pink. And that's why you got a pink candle, because it's almost done. It's almost over. You have that momentary blip. It's not quite Christmas yet, but it's real close. So anyway, so it's like we go through that, and then all of a sudden we start on this downhill trend, like heading towards the culmination of the holiday, which is really the culmination is Christmas Day, December 24th.
Yeah.
Or December 25th. I'm sorry. It's getting late, apparently.
Yeah, it is getting late. But
it's not Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve is not Christmas.
No.
Christmas Day is Christmas.
That's right.
That's right. Keep it straight. Oh, man. So anyway, so that's kind of lectionary loop. Just kind of doing a quick glance at the text and kind of looking at them, kind of going ahead. So, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I guess
All
it's.
right.
Do you,
I mean,
do you-
wow. We're
we're
gonna
whizzing through.
finish up like in an hour.
Yeah.
That's
Well, we'll have
crazy.
to just.
That's
We'll just have to
crazy
drag
talk,
out our
bro.
last segment. Yeah. We're going to add a new segment called Crazy Talk. We're just going to fill time.
Oh man. Yeah,
Just
well, I
kidding.
mean, we probably could. We could probably get away with it. We could do it. We could do whatever. This is our podcast. We can do whatever we want.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, no. Are we ready for our last segment?
I think so.
All right, here we go.
To our last segment, probably.
All right. Are we ready for church chatter? Oh, we got
All right. All right. So it's church chatter time. Well, we actually had to call off church on Sunday, which was a bit of a bummer. But we had, I don't know what everybody else had, but we had to have close to 8 inches of snow around here.
Oh, it was insane.
It was insane. It was absolutely crazy. I will be the first to admit, like I had to go to town the next day. And so I'm driving in Pekin. I'm like looking, and I'm only on the main roads. I'm like, man, these roads are so clear. Like, oh, we didn't have to cancel church. And then later that same day, I had to head into Manitou, which is in the country.
Right.
And we were heading into Manitou, and I was like, oh, thank goodness we canceled church.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Some of those roads were so bad. So it's one of those things where, yeah, depending on where you were, it was good or bad, so to speak. But we did have to call off church on Sunday, which was a bummer. But we do have our children's program this coming Sunday. Now, we've been broadcasting it all over the place. It's going to be at 9 a.m. It's going to be at 9 a.m., yada, yada, yada. Well, guess what? Because we have canceled now 2 services in December because of snow and ice and rain and whatever. We've missed so many practices that we've actually moved it to 10 a.m. Just so the kids can have a little bit more practice time before the actual show. So, yeah. So it's going to be at 10 a.m. We're going to have the Christmas program. We're going to have the kids up there. We're going to have the praise band up there. We're going to have the choir up there. It's going to be pretty phenomenal. So only one service for us on Sunday, and it is all about Jesus and the music that goes with it. So we got that. Looking forward to that. It's going to be a good time. I told people tonight they have to wear ugly sweaters. So
that'll be fun.
Yeah. So ugly sweaters it is. I think people should all wear ugly sweaters. It'll be good times. It'll be fun. It was actually really fun because some of the kids, because I guess they did that at Good Shepherd today. This is Wednesday. When is it? December 17th. And so they had it as their like spirit week or whatever. So anyway, I had some of the kids come up front and I was like, yeah, this is an ugly sweater. So anyway,
yeah,
it was a lot of fun. But anyway, we got that going on. Of course, we got Christmas Eve coming up. It is next week on Wednesday, which means we will not be doing podcast next Wednesday.
Yes.
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah. So anyway, we'll have Christmas Eve services at 4:30 will be a contemporary. We'll have 7 p.m. as a traditional and 11 p.m. as a traditional. And those will be our services for Christmas Eve. On Christmas Day, we'll have one service at 10 a.m. But here's the thing. It is a pajama service. Wear your matching pajamas. Kids, youth, bring a toy. I'll give you an opportunity to talk about your toy even for a second. Just one though. But anyway, so bring your matching pajamas. We'll have a place set up for family pictures if you want to have family pictures. I mean, if you don't, you don't. But if you do, we'll have a place set up for it for your sake. So anyway, so it should be a good time. I'm going to make some fancy coffee, some Jingle Bell Java. So one of my favorites. I can't have it until Christmas Day. It's a rule. It's a rule.
It is.
It's a rule, Casey.
Where is this one from? Is this from the monks?
It's from the monks.
It is. Is that part of the rule?
No.
From them,
but it's
or is
my
it
rule.
your own rule? Oh, it's your rule. Okay. That's what I was checking.
Yeah. No, I always so here's the thing. I have candy cane coffee, and I do that during Advent. But then once Christmas hits, Christmas Day, I have the Jingle Bell Java. So that's that. And I do the same kind of thing with Easter, by the way. I have a lot of different flavors I'll have before Easter, but once Easter hit, I have Pascha Java, which is their Easter blend. So
yeah. That's fun.
I have rules and I'm a purist.
Yes, you are. And I love that for you. I wish that I was into coffee, but yeah.
So what's going on over in your neck of the woods?
Well, we just did our children's program this past weekend. So we did that. That was fun. I had about 7 horns, like saxophones and trumpets and flutes and stuff like that.
Nice.
Play, which was really fun. And then we had the kids' children's program, so that was nice. My son, he was Joseph, so pretty big role.
I was going to say big role.
And when he told us he was Joseph the week before, a couple weeks ago, we were like, "Wow, that's awesome!" Like, who's Mary? And he goes, "I don't think we have one of those." And I'm like, "I'm pretty sure there's a Mary in the show, bud, but okay." And then my daughter, he said, "Yeah, she's going to be a fairy." And I said, "Are you sure, or are you sure she's an angel?" He's like, "Oh yeah, an angel." So we're, I guess we're still figuring it out a little bit. But
that's awesome.
Just so everybody knows, there was a Mary.
Oh, thank goodness. I was concerned. I was concerned.
And yes, my daughter was an angel with a couple other girls. So yeah, there's so all is good. But,
all is good.
Yeah, we did that. And then we also have a Christmas Eve service, and then we also have a Christmas Day service. So we're just plugging along.
Yeah.
Trucking along.
When's your Christmas Eve service?
Oh, off the top of my head, I can't. For some reason, I'm thinking 6:30, but I should probably.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Heard it here first, people. Look it up.
Yeah, it's somewhere on there. I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it right now.
Yeah,
but
no worries.
Yeah, and then we have so we got all that going on, so that's exciting. I think we'll I'm got all my Christmas music and stuff planned for the end of the year, and so looking forward to it.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, sounds good to me. You got anything else to share?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, I don't think I have anything else to share. We don't really have to-go music.
Maybe we should get that sometime.
We need to have ending music. But all right, everybody. Hey, thanks for listening. We'll again, it's probably going to be a couple weeks, because I know next week is Christmas Eve. Then the week after that is New Year's Eve, and we have service and everything else. So honestly, it's probably going to be a few weeks before you hear us again. But I hope everybody has a great holiday season, and God's blessings to all. Good night.
Good night.